Pariv. Well, that's the way we say hello in Armenia. Hello, children. How are you people doing? I'm Saurabh Kumar Dutt, and I'm here to teach you people a little bit about circles, its geometrical properties, as it is in class 10. So here we'll be looking up what is the definition of a circle, what if the certain terms which are changed in the definition of a circle, then what will a circle become, then further what are the different portions which are there in a circle within or probably a little outside. Further, we'll also be looking up some practical applications of circles in our real life. I'm sure you're really going to be interested in learning all of this, as we are going to lace this with the culture of Armenia. For that matter, I'm sure you're able to see that we are at this lovely place which is in Armenia, which at the moment I'm not going to tell you, which further when we have done a little bit of studies, you feel a little bored, so to pull you in, I will tell you some lovely facts about this place so that in times to come you can really go and visit this place. So now children, continuing with our lecture, let's study a little about circles. So can anybody in the class tell me what is actually a circle? Somebody is showing me probably a circular shape. Okay, there is another girl who is actually drawn a circle on her copy and is showing to me. No. I'm interested in the proper definition of a circle, which even if you tell, say, a layman or probably you tell a mathematician, everybody is going to agree, okay, this is perfect as the definition of a circle. Okay, doesn't matter. I'll tell you. Now, if say you talk about a circle moreover will look, say, something like this. That is, it will be a figure which say is something like this, right? I'm sure this type of figure you must have seen at a lot of places, right? But how is it that we can define this? So we can define this if we say that there be a point which is on the circumference, or we can say that which is in a plane, right, or the surface. Now if you talk about a plane is what? A plane is actually a surface just like the tabletop on which you are seated and you're doing your studies, right? So if there be a point which is movable, right, like this point P which we've named here, right, and if say it be so moving that its distance from another fixed point Q, say, is always fixed. So if we talk about the distance between both of these points, we will say that both of these distances are fixed. So if say we talk about this to be that fixed distance, like I told you, as this distance always has to be fixed, so as such, next now we are again going to join this point to another point where it will move, and then what will happen is we will get to see that again the distance will be fixed. So as such, if we talk about this distance, right, or probably any other distance so found out between the movable point P and the fixed point Q, then this distance always has to be fixed. And I also told you that this point Q also has to be fixed, right? So if such is the condition that a point follows, that is a movable point P, then the path which is going to be traced out will be a circle. Okay, so children, I'll just quickly discuss this once more. What I did say just now was that if suppose there be a movable point like the point P, right, and let's say it be moving in such a way so that its distance from another fixed point, which is the point Q, is always fixed, right? So wherever the point moves, it comes here, always is distance from this fixed point. If say it is fixed, then you will say that the path which is traced out by this movable point will be a circle, right? Remember, this distance that we are talking about, right, that this point has from this fixed point always has to be looked up on a surface or on a plane, right? And I gave you the example of a plane. It is just like the tabletop or probably the floor, right? They're all examples of a plane. So can anybody in the class tell me what actually in a layman language you can say that a plane is? Or in other words, what is the primary characteristic of a plane? Yes, Sonal? No, I'll tell you. Well, it's always the area, right? So if you're interested in a figure which has some specific area, then you can represent it in a plane, right? For that matter, here too, if you try talking about a circle, it is characterized right? By what? By the area in which it is, right? For that matter, if say we talk about the area in which it is, right, which say is represented, say something like this, right? So all of this area that we are talking about is actually one which is in the circle, right? So when we talk about such figures which have some area, right, they can be put in a plane. Moreover, whenever we are talking about the whole of the plane, it's actually some area, right, that we are talking about. Now children, if say we are interested in changing the conditions a little, like I told you, so if say let's talk about this point P to be moving in such a way so that its distance from this fixed point Q is always fixed, but the distance is not just in the plane but also in the 3 dimensions, that means in volume, right? So if say we talk about the movement of the point in such a way, right, then what will happen? Just tell me. Yes, Harshit. It is going to be in such that it will be on the surface of a spare, right? A spare is something like your cricket ball or probably like your football, right? They are all which can be described in 3 dimensions. So there's the length, there's the breadth, and there's also the height, right? So if you talk about except the x-axis, which is towards the right hand side at the left bottom corner of your table, right? So the horizontal axis is said to be the x-axis, the vertical axis is said to be the y-axis, and the axis which passes through the intersection of the x-axis and the y-axis and is perpendicular to the xy plane, that is the plane of your table, right, that will be the z-axis. So if there is a body which exists in all of the 3 real number lines which characterize space or volume, then you will say that the body actually exists in space, right? And then you'll be talking about its volume, not its area. So what did we do? We just changed the condition a little. We said that if this point P be moving such that its distance from the fixed point Q be always fixed, but the point be moving in such a way so that it is always not that it is in the same plane, but it is also outside the plane, that is in 3 dimensions, then the path which will be traced out by this point will now no more be a circle, although it will look like a circle, but it will be in 3 dimensions. As such, it will be on the surface of a sphere, right? Or in other words, you can say that it will represent a sphere. Okay, so this was playing with circle a little. Now let's come over to the different portions which are there in a circle. For that matter, let us quickly make another circle, and let's say that we have a circle to be, say, something like this at this time. Now if say you talk about the circle, obviously the first thing that comes into your mind is the center of the circle, right? So this is that fixed point, right, which is the center of the circle, from which any point on the circumference its distance is measured, and it should come out to be that fixed distance which is known as the radius. So if we draw a straight line from the center of the circle to any point on the circumference, right, this distance always remains to be fixed, and this is known as the radius of the circle, right? So this, children, is what? It is the radius, right? Now if suppose we have such a straight line which is the join of 2 points on the circumference of the circle, something like this, right, then let's see what happens. So if say we talk about a point like this, which is the join of 2 points on the circumference of the circle, and it is not moving out of the circumference of the circle, then such a straight line, children, is known as the chord, right? So this is what? This is a chord. Okay, let's now talk about another such a straight line which is just like a chord but actually can be said to be something else. Can you tell me? What am I talking about? Yes, very correct. I am talking about the diameter. So if suppose you talk about a straight line which is again the join of 2 points on the circumference of the circle, but its speciality also lies that it passes through the center of the circle, right? Then such a straight line will be said to be a chord. A chord which is a diameter, right? So this is what? This is a diameter. Okay, now let's say we talk about another straight line which say is just touching the circle at a single point, right? For that matter, let's say now that we have this straight line which is such that it touches the circle at a single point, right? And if such is the case, then we will talk about such a sort of a straight line to be called the tangent, right? So what's a tangent? A tangent is such a straight line which touches the circle at a single point. And if you talk about this point, if we name it to be Q, this actually is the point of contact, or is also known as the point of tangency, right? Now children, further, if say we talk about another straight line, can there be another straight line? If not, then tell me. Yes, there is going to be another straight line, and now at this time we are going to make that straight line. So we have this straight line which is said to be the sector. I'm sorry, it is known as the secant, right? So this is a chord which has been extended even out of the circle. So such a sort of a straight line is known as what? It is known as a secant. Did everybody understand this? Okay, so we talked about all of these straight lines. Now the first was, we talked about the radius. Now radius is the distance between the center of the circle and any point on the circumference of the circle. After that, we talked about another straight line which was the join of any 2 points on the circumference of the circle, and that is a chord of the circle. Next, we talk about another chord of a circle, that means the join of 2 points on the circumference of the circle, but there is another special point which is on the straight line which is the center of the circle, and if such is the case, such a chord is known as the diameter. Next, we talked about a straight line which touches the circle at a single point, right? And that, children, is known as the tangent. And this point where the straight line just touches the circle is known as the point of contact or the point of tangency. Now if there be another straight line which is actually the extension of the chord outside the circle, then that will be said to be the secant, right? So this is a secant. Now after all of these portions which are all straight, now let's talk about those things which are not straight. So if we talk about now the portion which is curved all through, right, this obviously is the circle, or it can also be said to be the circumference. So if you just talk about this portion which is curved, it is actually the circle that we are talking about, and it is also known as the circumference. Now can anybody tell me what is the difference between the circle and the circumference? Why do we require this term which is the circumference? Yes, anybody? Nobody? Well, I'll tell you. If you talk about a circle, we are actually talking about a planar figure which is possible in a surface or in a plane, right? Which obviously in accordance with the conditions that we earlier discussed. But if you talk about the circumference, it's actually the perimeter, right? It is the boundary of this figure. That means all the portion which is within it is going to be considered like that specific circle, right? So what does the circumference actually mean? The circumference obviously is the same circle, but it actually is showing you the perimeter, or it is showing you the boundary of this planar figure which is possible, right? So that is why we have the special name. And as you know, we have a part of mathematics which is known as mensuration. That is where you talk about the perimeter, the area of cross section, you talk about the area of four walls, right? And then you talk about the volume, etc. So that is where this is going to be used, right? Now for the children, after we have all of this, next then we will now be talking about a few of the things which we can say that happen in real day lives. But before I get to that, like I told you people, I'm quickly going to tell you people about this special place. You remember I told you that I'm going to tell you something special. Now this special place that we got to see just now, which was the one that I told you is in Armenia, right? So this actually is Areni Caves, South Caucasus, Armenia, right? It's an awesome place because it has a lot of history which is associated with it, right? Can you believe the oldest leather shoe has been found out here? Yeah, the oldest leather shoe has been found out here. Then there is a very old straw skirt also which has been found out here. I don't know what these were doing in the hills and the jungles here, but they were found, and they have been checked by the different biological methods that we have, that they are the oldest, right? And this place also symbolizes a lot of the Bronze Age, and as the study is going on, more and more excavations are happening at this place. Moreover, another interesting thing, it is said that the oldest brain which is functioning, right, has been found out at this place. So this place is so special. Make sure you make a visit to Armenia, especially to these Areni caves, and I'm sure you'll have a nice time. Well, continuing now with our study, but obviously I will also like to tell you a small joke about Armenia, and after that we'll continue. But okay, let me tell you a little about circles, then I'll tell you the joke, right? Okay, so now you will have to wait till the time the joke doesn't happen, okay? So now you have something special when we talk about a circle. So can you tell me the different sort of things that you've seen or heard, or you see in real day lives which are of circles? Can anybody tell me? Yeah, very correct. When we talk about the wheels, right, be it of a bicycle, be it of a truck, it's always circular. Can anybody tell me what is the reason behind that? Well, I'll tell you. Let's say now that we have a truck, right? Now, let's say we have a Ashok Leyland truck, and let's say this be the wheel of it, right? Now, normally you get to see that when we talk about wheels, we always find that they are actually circular. You will never find a wheel which is actually flat. That means it is not a cuboidal tire, not a cubical tire that you have. You always have a circular, or in other words, it can be one such which obviously has some area about it, right? And as such, that will continue to be in its cross section, and it will become some volume. But if you talk about the way it is made, it's actually made to be circular. For that matter, what I'm meaning to say is, if you talk about a truck's tire from the front, right, you'll find that it is something like this. That means it is circular. But so that it is able to withstand much pressure, that is why it is given some area, right? Because you know that thrust upon area, right, is equal to pressure. So as much more will be the area, right, less is going to be the pressure, right? And that is the reason why these tires are given some width. Okay, now what is the benefit of it being circular? Can anybody tell me? Now I made it before you. Now you can tell me what is the reason that we have these truck tires, or the tires of your bicycle, or probably anything else, we make it to be circular. Not able to make out. Well, I'll tell you, if you talk about these circles, one thing special you get to see when I made the road is the point of contact is very little, right? So you just see that if you just talk about this circle, right, there's just one point which is touching the straight line, which actually is the road, right? So the point of contact reduces, and as this tire is going to vary along its width inside, obviously then what will be in contact? Tell me, what is it that is going to be in contact? All the different points which are in this line, or in other words, there will be a line of contact, something like this, right? So if you join all of these points, then you will get a line of contact, where this is actually representing the width of the tire, right? Are you able to understand? Well, I'll tell you again. What I mean to say is, if suppose you have your truck tire to be, say, something like this, right, which say is plying on the road or moving on the road, then the truck tire obviously has some width within, right? Now when we see it just from the front, we find that the truck tire's circular end is touching the road just at a single point. But obviously behind it there's another circle, behind it there's another circle, which is actually making the width, and thus all of these points are in contact. Thus there's a line of contact, right? And because the point of contact is very less, that's why, children, what happens is the friction which acts also becomes very less. Did you understand? So if you talk about the frictional force, right, which is there on vehicles which have circular tires, will be less, and as such they will be able to move with ease, right? Moreover, if in its place, if you would have considered that there be, say, a cuboidal tyre, then you can understand the amount of point of contact it would have had. It would have not just had a line of contact, it would have had an area of contact, right? And so much of contact, thus the frictional force would have been much more, and thus moving the vehicle would have been very difficult. Did you understand? So this is a very nice application of circles, right? And here in circles, whenever there is a vehicle which say has circular tires, right, then there are two things which are ensured. One, that if you talk about the circle that we're talking about, it should be a proper circle, right? That is, it is properly balanced, right? It has a proper radius all through. Now there's another thing which is taken care of. Can anybody tell me, in making a tire, what is another thing which is taken care of? Can you tell me? Well, I'll tell you. What is done is, there's another thing which is known as moment of inertia, right? So in order to maintain the moment of inertia, what is done is, there is more amount of mass which is kept at the edges, right? Because this moment of inertia is actually directly proportional to the square of the masses which are situated as much distant. So more be the distance, by its square you'll be multiplying. As such, more masses you keep towards the end portion, that is close to the circumference, right, more will be the moment of inertia. As such, when the vehicle will move, then what will happen is, it will keep continuing moving, right, without applying much force, right? That is why I'm sure you people must have seen that if you talk about your cycle tires as well, there are thin spokes, right? But if you talk about the edge of the wheel which moves your cycle, you find that that is fat tired, that also has air, that has a lot of volume, right? That is because the moment of inertia when you are to move is to be more, right? So these are some special things we have told you about a circle. Obviously, I'm sure you people must be waiting for the jokes. Well, I'll tell you. So if you talk about an Armenian person, he is known to be one who really misbehaves with cats, right? Because it's said that don't feed the cats, right? This is a normal saying, right? That's because the cats are very jealous, and the Armenians are very close to their cars. How old their cars be, they are very fond of their cars, right? And if you feed the cats, it's said that when a person comes back, right, then the cars actually amass together, many cars many of these cats together, right, and they get on the cars and they scratch the glasses, right? It is said, and thus the Armenians really detest the cats, and it is said that don't feed the cats. Okay, now another thing, children, is very amusing about Armenia, which I get to hear, is that if, say, you talk about Armenia, right, then it is said that they really detest Turks. That is because they've had a hard time with Turks, right? So it's best that you give them a feeling that you also do not like Turks, otherwise they won't let you have a comfortable stay, right? So you can say that I really dislike the Turks, so the Turks were very bad, right? And as such, then they are really going to welcome you. Okay, so these are two jokes that I had about Armenia specific people, right? I'm sure you're really going to enjoy in this place when you go to this place, because this place is really one such which has a lot of natural beauty. Now, before we end, I'll also like to tell you people what is one special thing that you should be having, right? Okay, I did tell you that you shouldn't trust the Turks. This is something, if you say, then I'm sure you will find that you will get more company and more bosom company of the Armenians, and you will get a great welcome. Moreover, there is one sweet dish that for sure you should have, which is known as sudzuk, right? And it is actually made with walnuts, right, which is threaded, and then after that it is dipped into sugar syrup or into a syrup made by some sweet fruits, right, like say any such sort of citrus fruits, etc., right? And it's a lovely sweet dish, I can tell you that. So make sure you have this sudzuk, and whenever you meet any person from Armenia, make sure to tell them Parif. In this note, children, I'm going to end this lecture, but make sure that all this that you've learned, right, is something that you should write once more, you should revise once more, you should revisit, right, and you should look up more things corresponding to it so that you can have some questions, you can have some answers. Obviously, at the end of it, you will have more knowledge. Moreover, if you have some questions, right, do post it in the comments as to what is this linked with circles, or which is this topic and how is it linked with circles, or if it is something of circles, how can this be solved, or such sort of questions you can be having, right? So I really welcome your queries. Moreover, I also expect you people that there is actually a form, right, which is a feedback form, and which also will tell me about the problem areas that you face in mathematics, right? There's a Google form link which is there in the bio, that is in the description of my channel. You'll see it at the top of my videos. Do click on it, do fill it, and do send it to me so that I can get back to you and help you with your journey in mathematics, and I can ensure you that I'll make your best capable capacity in mathematics to be developed by me for sure. Bye.